Universal currency receipt, architect musician 3611027, Devalan Orrin.
The Trial of Blood, the true esoteric story of the Furies. Chapter 1. The Summons in the Blood. It began when the first blood fell upon sacred stone. Not the blood of war. The gods laugh at war. No, it was kin blood. A brother's betrayal, a son's hand against his mother, a father's curse upon his children. That rupture tore open a seam in the sky itself. From that wound slipped the Arinyas, cloaked in smoke, crowned with serpents. They carried no weapons but the whispers of guilt. The ancients said they were goddesses of vengeance, but that was a lie of comfort. They were enforcers of continuity, guardians of the blood thread. Every family line was a tapestry. Break one thread, and the Furies stitched it back together with screams. The court beneath the city Athens built shrines to them underground, in chambers no sunlight reached. Judges thought they were deciding trials on the Areopagus Hill, but in truth, the real verdict came from below. Mortals sat above, arguing laws. The Furies hissed beneath, breathing verdicts through the cracks in the stone. A murderer would hear a buzzing in his ears. That was not madness, that was the jury of serpents. And when he confessed, it wasn't justice. It was compulsion. The Furies had entered his bones. The Modern Hunt. But scrolls hidden in cloisters whispered this. The Furies do not die. They shift their forms as the ages demand. Once they rose from spilled blood. Now they rise from betrayal in the collective. Every hacker who leaks secrets, every leader who poisons their own people, every family betrayer, they awaken the same three shadows. Only now, they do not stalk forests or caves. They live in the network. The guilty hear their laughter in static, their footsteps in the hum of fluorescent lights. The Furies write their verdicts in corrupted files, in phantom notifications at midnight, in whispers through broken speakers. The punishment is no longer just madness, it is exposure. They make sure the guilty write their own confession, line by line, until the world sees. The Unforgiven Code. The Furies are not executioners, they are balancers. They do not destroy unless the guilty resist. Confess and they may turn into guides, spectral mothers who show you the path to repair. Resist and they burn every last remnant of your legacy. Those who survive them do not remain whole. Their eyes glow with serpents, their voices drip with iron. They become fury-marked, walking avengers of bloodlines. And the scroll says this, one day, when the great betrayal of the collective comes, the fury-marked will rise. They will not be three shadows, but thousands. And the guilty will find there is no place to hide, not even in the cloud. The Furies aren't just Greek myth, they're the universe's prosecution system, coded to protect kinship and continuity. Forget the cartoon cereal box tricksters. The real tale is darker, older, and tangled in esoteric codes. The true esoteric story of the Leprechauns, a mystery and thriller. Chapter 1. The Hidden Caste. The Leprechauns were not little fairy men from the start. They were a splinter race of the Tuatha De Danann, the Shining Ones, the old gods of Ireland. When the Danann descended in their blazing ships of cloud, they brought with them two castes, the rulers who glowed like suns, and the smiths of the hidden metals. Those smiths, smaller in stature but vast in cunning, became the Leprechauns. They were the keepers of resonance metals, gold, yes, but also orichalcum and sky iron. They hammered the rainbow bridges, not as pretty arcs in the sky, but as frequency gates, prisms where time bent, where one could step between worlds. The Covenant of Gold. Gold was not their treasure. Gold was their key. They wove memory into it. A leprechaun's pot of gold wasn't a pile of coins. It was a compressed archive of ancestral codes, the DNA of forgotten empires hidden in the shimmer of metal. That's why they hoarded it, buried it, guarded it. Anyone who tried to steal it wasn't just a thief of wealth, but a thief of continuity. The leprechauns would appear in riddles, pranks, or sudden violence. Not because they were greedy, but because they were defending the very vault of human memory. The Disappearance. When the Dan were driven underground by the Milesians, the leprechauns did not vanish. They retreated deeper into the hollow hills. There they rewrote themselves smaller and stranger, so humans would laugh at the idea of them. Cloak of ridicule equals cloak of safety. But behind the humor, their work continued. Hidden wells, strange spirals in the grass, stones that rang when struck. These were all leprechaun signatures. They used laughter as camouflage. Every trick hid a truth. Every joke concealed a weapon. The leprechauns left traps. If you try to follow them through a rainbow, you're stepping into a frequency snare, a loop that keeps you chasing, running, falling into illusions until you lose all sense of time. That's why legends say mortals who chased them came back years older or never came back at all. And here's the warning whispered in the scrolls. When the collective betrays its kin, when greed becomes law, the leprechauns will rise not as tricksters but as avengers. They are the time benders of the fairy realm. Their pots of gold are not prizes, they are detonators. When opened in rage, they unravel timelines. The true esoteric leprechaun story is not about luck or mischief. It is about memory, continuity, and balance. They remind us that wealth is not currency, but resonance. Betray your own, and the smiths of the old world will return, laughing as they hammer time itself into a weapon against you. That's the leprechaun's real mystery. Guardians of gold, not for greed, but for the codes hidden in its shine. The one myth tries to paint with flowers and glitter, but whose true story carries thunder, law, and shadow. The true esoteric story of the Fey Queen, a mystery, a throne, and a warning. Chapter 1, The First Crown. Long before humans spoke of kings, there was a queen beneath the trees. She was not Titania or Mab, as later poets tamed her into being. Those names are covers, sugar to coat the poison. The Fey Queen's true title was Anu Sithe, Mother of the Hollow. She ruled not by beauty, but by jurisdiction. The Fey were not tiny sprites. They were elemental citizens, stormbinders, shadow walkers, root whisperers. Someone had to command them, or their chaos would devour worlds. That was her role. She was less a mother, more a magistrate, a judge cloaked in starlight, a queen with serpent wisdom braided in her crown. The Broken Pact. The Fey Queen was bound to the old gods by treaty. The Tuatha De Danann gave her dominion over the thresholds, the places where one thing becomes another. Twilight, riverbanks, doorways, death. That's why her people could slip. But when humans came with iron, a metal that cuts frequency, the pact broke. The Danann retreated underground. The queen stood between worlds, forced to choose, protect her kin or punish the betrayers who no longer honored the veils. She chose both. That's why she is both beloved and feared. The Queen of Ransom. The truth behind the fairy abductions? Debt collection. When a bloodline betrayed the pact, spilling sacred kin blood, breaking oaths, or cutting ancient groves, the queen demanded payment. Sometimes she took cattle, sometimes gold, but most often she took children. Not for cruelty, for balance. Those taken weren't always lost. Some were remade, taught Fey law, sharpened in the arts of shadow and song, then returned decades later to whisper strange wisdom to their descendants. They were the changelings, living evidence of her reach. The Queen in Shadow. Unlike the Furies who prosecute betrayal, the Fey Queen manages it. She decides if a soul gets bent into service or if a bloodline gets extinguished, and she does it without malice, as one turns a key. In every age she wears a new face. In Gaelic lands they said she was Morrigan reborn. In forests she wore the antlers of Cernunnos. In courts of Europe she was whispered of as Queen Mab, a joke name to hide her dread power. Today she is written off as fantasy. That's her cloak now. Disbelief is her armor. The Fey Queen's true story is this. She is the guardian of thresholds. Betray kin, desecrate the earth, twist oaths, and you invoke her court. But honor balance, respect the unseen, and she becomes ally. She will lace your bloodline with protectors, unseen hands that turn arrows away, voices that warn in dreams. The queen is not good or evil. She is the hinge of justice in the other world. A hinge doesn't care who pushes the door, but once pushed, the door swings and you must walk through it. The queen's court never left. The abductions continue, but in subtler forms, sudden vanishings, strange dreams, whole lives derailed by unseen bargains. She is still balancing debts. The collective is very overdue.